Yeah, let's get on with it. This is AZ204 lab session. We will be looking at lab 5, and then in lab 5 we will be looking at how to deploy compute workloads by using images and containers. Right? Um, let's look at the architecture. So we will get to deploy an Azure virtual machine. We will then also get to connect to that virtual machine. After that, we will create a container image and push that container image. And we will get to also create an Azure container instance and deploy the container instant, and then we'll also connect to the container. And let's get right into it. So this session we will be mainly be working in the Azure portal. So we won't need to move around a lot. So yeah, let's get into it. So under exercise 1, we will be looking at, or rather we'll be creating virtual machines by using what we call Azure Command Line Interface, or Azure CLI. And we will be doing it obviously in the portal. All right, let me just admit someone in the lobby. Okay, so how do we go about doing that? You have to go to Azure portal, um, portal.azure.com first. And then once you are here, you will open your Cloud Shell, um, which is at the top ribbon there. Rather, I don't know if I should say navigation. And then once you click on it, if you haven't worked with um, um, the Cloud Shell before, or rather the CLI, it will ask you to actually create a storage account, which it will store all the log files and everything. So do create, it's just a simple step. It will just ask you there, and then also show you which subscriptions you would want to create that storage account under, and then you just select the relevant subscription and then click create. And then after a few minutes, you should be able to now get to use your CLI. Okay, and then you can switch between Bash and PowerShell. But then in this instance, we will be using a Bash. All right, let's get into it. Let me confirm that I will be I want to switch to Bash. Okay, and then let's look at what they're saying we should do. First, we're gonna create a resource group. On Azure Portal, we'll navigate. So that's where we'll manually create it, not using the CLI, but then you can definitely create it. But then since well the CLI, I'll just leave it there. But then we are creating a resource group. As you can see, I already have a resource group here. If you can find it, you just search resource group, or you just come to create and then you search for resource group. I'll just click on resource group. I will then click create. And then we have only one subscription. So if you have multiple subscriptions, you should know which subscription you want to use. Okay, and then it will be under is I'll just review and create that resource group. As you all know, resource group, we take it as a folder, or rather a container where all your resources will fall under. If you're going to create Azure functions, you can put them in there. If you are going to create what we call virtual machines, you would also put them in there as well. So this is what it it looked like. And then also here they're giving you an idea of how it would look like and how, when you are creating that resource group, how it should look like. Okay, and then now we can open that Cloud Shell, Azure Cloud Shell, and just do follow this note sometimes. So it helps you in in case you are stuck. So the Cloud Shell icon is represented by a greater than sign. So as you can see, if you come here, we have a greater than sign there. Okay, and then it has an underscore character as well. And then if this is the first time you're creating or you are starting at Cloud Shell, when prompted to select either Bash or PowerShell, select Bash. And then when you are presented with that you have no storage mounted message, select the subscription you are using for this lab purpose and then select create storage. This I've already mentioned. So now we will start with just checking the version. I will just come here and I'll just say Azure dash dash version. Then I will just click that. And yeah, this is how then you get the version of the CLI tool that we are using. Okay. And then now we move to task 4, where we will use the Azure CLI commands. So if you don't know what to do once you have opened that, you can simply come here and say, let me just clear so that we can all see, and then I'll just make it a little bit bigger. If you don't know whatever you're looking for, you can just say AZ help, and then this should give you more of all there is that you can do and some sort of a brief explanation of that. So if you can see here, we have account where you can manage your Azure subscription information. You have ACR, which we will be looking at, where you can manage private registries with Azure container registries. You have AD, where you would manage Azure Active Directory graph entities needed for RBAC, RBAC or role-based control. You have advisor, you have AFD, you have quite a lot of things. So if you need to create maybe something, you would then, if you don't know how it looks like or you forgot how that command looks like, you can just say AZ help, and then it will give you some sort of a brief summary of the commands that you can have. As you can see, we have resource here where you can manage Azure resources. Let me see. We have a group where you can manage resource groups and template deployment. So do have a look at all of those commands, right? So because we will be creating an Azure virtual machine, it is good to know which commands you can use actually to deploy an Azure virtual machine. So how would you do that? You can say Azure VM and then you say dash dash help. If you don't know what else to put in, just say Azure VM dash dash help, and it will just give you an idea of what you can do with that. Okay, and then now, yeah, you get the subgroups and commands for Azure virtual machines once you are doing that. And then if you want to create a virtual machine and then you don't know what to put in after create, you can say get help, and then this it will give you arguments and examples for creating Azure virtual machines. So you just come and say, let me also clear, you just say AZ VM create and then dash dash help. And there we have it. We have a subgroup of commands that you can use. As you can see here, we have quite a few things under network and And yeah, you have quite a lot of things that you can actually get to use. And then after this, we have examples of, as you can see, examples on how to create a virtual machine. So here we're creating a default Ubuntu virtual machine with an automatic SSH authentication. So how would you go about that? You say azvm create -n, and then this would be your name of your virtual machine, my VM, and then you have -g, which is group or your resource group, and then you would put in that resource group there, and then you would have -image, and then the image is the more of the operating system that you would want to leverage. Okay, yeah, we have quite a few, well, quite a number of them that you can actually get to look at. Okay, and then since well we have looked at that, now let's explore how then can we create our own, or let's create our own virtual machine, right? So we will run the command to create a new virtual machines with the following settings. So you should always make sure to record your password whenever you are creating this. So we'll create a virtual machine that has this resource group that is in this resource group, and then the name is quick VM, and then the image is Debian, and then the admin username is student, and then the password we will get to create on our side. Okay, so let's get into it. You say AZ virtual machine create. Oof. Okay, apologies for that. Create, and then now we specify the resource group. Resource group, what's the name of the resource group? I'll just come and copy and paste it there. Okay, and then our name, I think it's quick VM, but I will just want to make sure that the spelling is correct. Okay, and then what else? We will then get to look at the image, and let me say the image, it's Debian. Also, I will copy that. So with this simple steps, then you have created, you can create your virtual machine. So what we are now going to add is just admin username, which would be student, and then we will have admin password. Okay, let's confirm. Yeah, it's admin username and then admin password. As you can see here, we have admin, which is student, and then admin dash admin password, and then you create your own there. So I'll create something rememberable or something memorable, IT thing at 2022. Nothing major. And then you just click enter, and then it will automatically create create is misplaced or not recognized. Um, let's make sure that I spelled create, or create has E. I didn't put in E. Let's just say E. E there, and then with only this line, you can actually get to create a virtual machine and then start using it. You'll see how simple it can be. And also you can obviously use the portal to create it, but then with this line, you get to create everything all at once. You don't need to go under maybe the basic tab, the networking tab, and all those things. You only just do this, and then it will automatically create your virtual machine. So we can then now say creating a virtual machine with the CLI is that simple and time effective, right? So we're gonna wait for it to actually load, and then let's see what we will do after that. So after that, we should wait for it to create first, and then after we'll run the following command to get a more detailed JSON file that contains various metadata about the newly created virtual machine. So as you can see, because it's a virtual machine, you say Azure and then virtual machine. Because you want to see information, you say show, and then first you point to the resource group, and then after the resource group, you then point to the name of that actual virtual machine that you want to check, and then it will give you all there is about that virtual machine. Okay, then it's created, so we can definitely run that. I can say Azure Virtual Machine dash resource. Oh, it's show, and then I will say dash resource group. I don't know. I just want to make sure that I have the correct thing there. And then I'll paste, and then I'll say dash name. This one I can't misspell unless there's something wrong with my fingers. So then there's the metadata about this virtual machine. We have various information. You can see the VM size, which is standard, DS1, V2, and then also here we have what the ID of that, and then as you can see, it's more of, it's almost like a path to where your virtual machine is. Um, we also have some properties that you can definitely get to set as time goes, and then we have a resource group, which is container compute. We have the OS profile here, which the admin username is student. The password is obviously not shown here. But then you can see all sorts of information that you can definitely want to see. And then as you can see, we said our operating or our image is Debian. Debian is a Linux OS. So yeah, hence the OS here is Linux. Okay, and then yeah, we have seen that. So let's now go and see that's next. So we would run, if you want the IP addresses that are associated with that VM, you would run this command: Azure virtual machine or Azure VM list IP address, and then you would point to the resource group and then point to that name of that um, the name of that virtual machine. So what you would do now, you would then come and say Azure virtual machine list IP dash addresses, and then you would then say resource group. The resource group is actually not that hard. I don't know why I keep on. Luckily, I copied it, and then I'll just say name, and then the name is quick VM. That's one word. Okay, so here, as you can see, we have our private IP addresses, which is 10.0.0.4. And then we also have public IP addresses, which is 20.168.250 or 250.106. Okay, and you can see that this is dynamically assigned. And now what happens if you only want to see the IP addresses? You don't want to see all these things that are shown in here, right? You would run a longer command, but then it will definitely give you the IP address. So you'd run the following to filter the output only to return the first IP address value. So as you can see, our first IP address value would be that private one. So you're just gonna say you gonna run the very same command, but then you will add a query there um, to get the first IP address that you get there. So I'm gonna copy it because it's long. So mistakes are unavoidable, especially when it's like this. So here you can see we're actually getting the public IP address. As you can see, IP virtual machine network dot public IP address. So let's now attempt to get let's just say private IP address there, and then let's run. Okay, it says none, but then I already see there's one there. I might have typed something wrong, but then anyway, oof, we still get to move. Okay, and what happens if you want to save that IP address somewhere? What you would do is to create a variable, right? Let's just say IP address like this, and then you would assign it that command to actually save that IP address in here. So since well I've copied that, I'll just come and paste, and then now I'll just come and click enter. So it will get me that IP address, and then it will be saved here. And then how do I get that IP address? To get it, I'll just say echo, and then I'll say $, and then I'll say IP IP address, and then it should give me that IP address. As you can see now, that means IP address has been saved in there. Okay, as you can see, I think that's step 8 and step 9. So you would run the following command to store the results of the previous command in a new base shell variable named IP address. So you just say IP address equals to, and then you put in a $, and then put that command inside brackets, and then it should actually do that. And for you to see that, you would just say echo, and then you would reference that, right? And then now we are going to connect to our virtual machine using Secure Shell. Secure Shell is more like the secure way to remotely access a virtual machine, or to remotely access computing devices without the worry of security. So how would we do that? We would say SSH student, and then we would then say add, and then provide the IP address which we want to connect to. So it's as simple as that. You say SSH, and then I'll say student add, and then I say $, and then I'll say IP address, something like that. And then, are you sure you want to continue connecting? I will definitely say yes. And then it will ask me for the password. The password is IT, I think, at 2022, something of that sort. And then now, notice that my name changed from Philip to Philip at Quick VM. So this shows that inside of that virtual machine. Okay, and then that's as simple as that in terms of how to connect to SSH. So let's look at what the next steps are saying. So the SSH tool informs you that the authenticity of the host can be established, and then ask if you want to continue connecting then you would enter yes, and then we did, and then the SSH tool would then ask for the password, and then we'd enter the password that we've created. And then after connecting to that virtual machine, we would just say uname dash A. Say uname dash A. Okay, and this will give us more of a brief information, or rather, we'll get metadata describing the virtual machine, which is Linux. So then, as you can see, we have Linux quick VM, and then it's a Debian. So, and then you can see all the information there. Um, okay. Okay, and then once you're done performing anything, you would then exit out of that. Okay, yeah, as you can see, the following command we would run the following command to get metadata describing the Linux virtual machine. And then that's that. And then we would close the session by saying exit. And then now we can close this PowerShell pane there. Okay. Now let's look at exercise 2, where we will be creating a Docker container image and deploy it to Azure Container Registry. How do we perform that? By opening our Cloud Shell. So I will just wait for it to load, and it shouldn't take that much of our time. So after the Cloud Shell prompt, at the Cloud Shell command prompt in the portal, we should run the following command to move from the root directory to the cloud drive directory. So this is a normal change directory command we all know. So I'm just gonna paste it there. You just say CD, and then you put in that. I don't know what character that is. So you would call it whatever you call it. I'll just say a squiggly line, and then you say /, and then the directory that you wanna be in. And as you can see now, we are in that directory, and then inside that directory we will make a new directory which is called IP check. Okay, I'll also paste it here. When you are making a directory, you just say mkdir or mkdir, and then you give the name of that directory. And then let's see, cannot create directory IP check file exists. So I'll just say dir, so that I can see all the directories that are in here. Okay, so as you can see, we already have that. So if you run there, it will give you all the directories that are inside. So as you can see, we already have that directory, so there's no need for me to create it. But then you will definitely need to create that directory, and then I will then get to move into that um, created directory, and then inside of that directory, that's where now I will create a new .NET Console application, and the name is called IP check. Because I'm using the same because I'm using the same because I'm using the same what I'm using the same Cloud Shell. I might have the same project because I have created it before. So um, I should have that. So to make things easier, what I'm going to do is to just say CD. I will go out of that, and then what I will do, I will remove um, that directory. It is called IP check. And then I'll just say I'll run dir now. As you can see, our dir doesn't have anything. So since we have removed that directory, I will then now create it by saying mkdir IP check. And then now we can definitely say we are on the same path with that, and then I will then get to move to IP check by just saying change directory in the cloud drive. I want to get into IP check, and then inside IP check, then I will run this command to create a new .NET console application. I will paste it and then I will run. So we have looked at this command. We should be familiar with it by now. And then as you can see, that creation was successful. So excuse me, just give me a few seconds. Excuse me for that. Excuse me for that. Now we move. Then we will run the following command to create a new file um, in that IP check, which we will call it Docker file. How do you do that? By saying touch, and then you then specify that folder name. So I'll just say touch, and then you paste. Then I'll add enter. Then that file is created. So there we go. And then now we will open Visual Studio Code, and then we just run code space dash. You just say code space dash. And then there we have it. You can see that we have Visual Studio Code in our CLI. Okay, and then we have that Docker file that we created. We have program.cs, which is our which forms part of our .NET project, .NET console project that we just created, and then we have some file that was created along with that project. Okay. And then now that we have opened code, we will then get to make some alterations in our program.cs, because if you come here and you look, you can only see that that program CS, it only logs this information, hello world. Okay, so please give me a sec. Um, okay. Yeah, let's continue. So as you can see, our program.cs only has hello world. Hello world is not part of the scope, so we're gonna delete it and then get to put in this code. We'll then get to look at what it does. Then I'll just paste it here. As you can see, we have a public class called program, and then inside that program, we have a main method, and then that main method, what we are doing first, we have an if statement where we check if there is a network available, or rather there's a connection to the network. And then if there is connection to the network, we will start by consoling or by logging to say the current IP address, and then it will have a colon at the end. And then after that, we will get the host entry for that current host name. And then after that, that's when now we can iterate over each IP address and render the values of those IP addresses in our for each loop here, as you can see. And then else, if there's no connection, then it should just say there's no network connection. I'm just gonna save my file now. And yeah, to see our program in action, you just say .NET run. And then once you enter that, you should see IP address, and then you should also be able to see that IP address that's in there. Okay, as you can see, the current IP addresses, we are seeing only that public IP address. Okay, we've already looked at it, and then we will then now get to move into the Docker file and then add some code. As you can see, this code, we created an empty Docker file. So now we will just get to add a code, and then we will just look at what it does. So edit. So first thing first, we start using .NET 6 SDK container image. As you can see here, here we have mcr.microsoft.com, and then we are using .NET SDK, and then we will then change the current working directory to app, and then we'll copy all the existing files from the host machine, and then we'll publish application to the out folder, and then after that we will start the container by running the application DLL, as you can see here. So I'm just gonna save that, and then after saving that, I'll just we will then get to move into creating a container registry resource. Now, okay, so let's look at doing that. Okay, first thing first, we will run a command to create variable with a unique value for the container registry resource. As you can see, we have a registry name, and then we will say the name is con registry, and then we will just add some random number after that. Okay, so I will come and copy that, and then I'll come and say I will paste it here. So let me just close it a bit. So I will just do that. So now to see our name, you just say echo, and then you say $sign, and then you say registry, registry name, like that. And then as you can see, our container registry is named con registry 15247. Okay. Okay, and then now we will then go and create a container registry. And then how do we go about doing that? You're simply going to run an AZ Azure Container Registry check name, and then we would put in that. Actually, we want to actually verify that this was created. The name is actually available. So how do we do that? I'll just say Azure ACR. We will check the name if it's available. Check dash name, and then we will say name, and then our name. How do we get that? Uh, Let me come and delete one N there. Then after deleting that one M, I'm just gonna copy that, and I'm just gonna paste it there. Okay, and then I'll run that. Is check dash dash name. Okay, as you can see, the name is available. Name available is set to true. Okay. Um, so if the results show name is available, then you can continue to the next step. If it's not available, you would just rerun this registry name, and then um, it will definitely create another random name for you. Okay, or generate another random number so that you can come and check it again, and then get to create a container registry. Okay, so now let's move. We will then get to create a container registry. And then how do you do that? You say AZ as your container registry, or ACR create, and then you specify the resource group, you specify the name of that registry container, and then you will also get to give it the SKU. And the SKU is basic there. So let me just copy it to save time. Then I'll just paste. As you can see, it's Azure, and then ACR create, and then resource group, and then we give it the name of that resource group, which we created earlier, and then the registry name is the registry name that we created, which has a random number at the end, and then we give it a SKU, which is a basic SKU. And then you will then get to say enter, and then wait for it to create before we move to the next um, task. Okay, then our Azure container registry is created. Okay, this means now we can then get to move into the next step, which is to store the registry metadata. So we will run the following command to get a list of all container registries that we have in our subscription. I think we should only have one. How do you do that? You just say AZ ACR, and then you just say list, and then you will list all the container registries that are in your. Let me let me just say clear so that we can be able to run that command again. Um, as you can see, this is the container registry that we have here. It has some sort of metadata that goes with it. But then as you can see, here's the name there, con registry 15247. Okay, so now let us move on. And then we'll run this command to what? So we will run the following command to ensure that you see the name of the registry output. So this actually should give us the name of the registry only. Oh, yeah, we are basically getting the list and then putting in a query which will get the name of that container registry. So if I say enter now, we should only see the container registry name that's there. Okay, and then now we will also do the same as we did with our IP address. We'll create a variable where we'll store that Azure container registry name. So I'll just come and paste. This is the variable that you call it ACR name, then it's equals to, and then you do that Azure container registry list, and then you query that name. Then if I just say enter, it will do that. And then to see that, you will just say echo, and then you say dollar sign, and then you say ACR, and then capital N for name. And then there we have it. That's our um, um, variable there. As you can see, also they did the same. And then now we will get to, we are almost done, by the way. So we will get to look at deploying a Docker container image to that container registry we've just created. So now we will go and we'll go back to our well, we were already using it. So I guess in this step they assume we have closed it or something. So we'll go back to our bash, and then here they're saying we should change our directory to IP check. Let's check where we are. We are already there, so there's no need to run the step. If you are not there, then you can run it. So we will run there to see what's inside that directory. I expect to see that program .cs file. I expect to see the Docker file as well as the ipcheck.cs project. So as you can see, we have that, and then we also have what we call bin, and then we have obj as well. Okay, and then let's look at what's happening there. And then after that, we will run this following command to upload the source code to our container registry and build the container image as a container registry task. So how would we do that? You say Azure Container Registry build, or Azure ACR build, and then you give it the registry name, which is the variable that we just created. We feed it to that registry, and we say dash dash image, and then we say IP check colon latest, and then we say, and we're uploading all the content that are in that file. Okay, so I will just paste that, and then I will click enter. Okay, it will take a few minutes, if not seconds, and then we will then move forward to then validating the container image registry. Okay, now that is done, we will then get to validate our container image in that. And then how do we do that? We will go to our resource group, and then inside our resource group, we will then select the what we will get to select the container registry that we created. So let me come and minimize this. We come to our resource group, and then we will look at what the container registry that we created. Okay, and then from the container registry, we'll just go to services, and then we'll go to repositories. Under services, here's services, and then we'll go to repositories, and then from this repositories, we will select IP check container image repository. We'll select this, and then we'll select latest. And then we will review the metadata for the version of our container image with the latest tag. So as you can see, the tag is latest. This is when it was created, our platform, our media type, um, all the information that we can actually need it's in here. This is the metadata that we would need to see here. Okay, you can also select the run ID link to find metadata about the build task. So if I come here to run ID, And then this should give us some sort of metadata about the build of that. Okay, awesome. So um, we have a container registry, and then after we've uploaded, rather, what did we do? We published, or we built that image to our container registry, our project, and then build an image to our container registry. So now we will look at deploying an Azure container instance. And then let's look at, I think this should be the last exercise. It has just a few tasks. And then after these tasks, we should be done. Yeah, it has 4 tasks. And then after these 4 tasks, we should be done. Okay, let's look at task 1. So we would enable the admin user, and we would enable the admin user in container registry. Now, we will go to the resource group that we created, and then inside the resource group, we will select the container registry and that we created, and then we'll click on update, and then under update container registry, we will then in the admin user section, we will select enable. So let's come here. Well, I'll just want to come to the container registry. And then inside here, where are we supposed to go? To the build. Here we have a build here. I'll just click build. And then under here, we'll come to admin user. And then we just say enable. And then now that it's enabled, we will save it and then move forward. Okay, and then now we can close that. Um, we would update the admin user section, and then we would select enable, and then that's it enabled, and we save, and then we close that update container registry. And then that's it for task 1. And then now task 2, we will automatically deploy a container image to an Azure container instance. So now I will then go to the container registry blade, and then in services section, we'll select repositories, and then in the repository section, we will select that IP check container image repository, and then in this repository blade, we will select ellipsis menu associated with the latest tag entry, and then we'll run the instance. So how do we do that? We come here in our container registry, we go under services, we'll go to repositories, and then under repositories, we will select that IP check, and then after selecting that, we will select the ellipsis. Here's the ellipsis there, and then we'll run the instance. And then it will just give us a page for creating a new instance. And then let's look at the information that we need. The container name, we will call it managed compute. And then the container image, we will just leave it as default, and the OS type should be Linux. Subscription, we'll leave it as is. And then the resource group should be container compute, and then it should be under East US, and then the number of cores is 2, and then the memory in GB is 4. And then IP address, public IP address section, we'll select no. So let's see. It's Linux, and then the subscription, we leave it as is. The resource group is container compute, and then it should be under East US, and then number of cores should be 2, and then memory should be 4. And then here the public IP address should be no, and then we can now click on create. So let's confirm this is 4, that was 2, and then yeah, the resource group is that, and then yeah, this is exactly how it looked like. And then we will wait for it to create, and then after that we will manually then deploy a container image to container instance. Okay, it will take some couple of minutes for it to actually create. So we should definitely just give it some time to create. While it's still creating, let's just look at how task 3 looks like. Okay, in task 3, we will manually deploy a container image into the container instance, right? And then how do we go about that? First thing first, we'll go to Azure portal, and then we will go to create a resource. And then in that create a resource, we will search in the marketplace for container instances. And then after searching for that, we will click on create, and then we will provide the following information that comes there. So as you can see, it's created. So we go home, we come to create resources. And then under create resources, all we're going to do is to search for container instances. I think I copied container instance. So it definitely give us container instances either way. Okay. Um, con- Container instances. Okay, there we have container instances, and then I'll click on it, and then I'll click on create. Okay, and then the resource group would be container compute, and then the container name, we will call it manual compute. Source group would be container compute, it would be manual compute. Okay, and then the image source, it would be Azure Container Registry. Image source, Azure Container Registry. And then as you can see, it's already picked up there. And then we have the image, which is IP check, and the image tag, which is latest. And then it should look like that. We will review and then get to create it. We will wait for validation to run, and then once validation is done, then we should be able to create. Okay, and then now let's look at the last task where we validate that the instance has run successfully. Okay, let's wait for that resource to actually be created because we can't actually get to move without it being created. So, but then the steps that we would follow, first we would go to the resource group, and then we'll select the created resource group, which is container compute resource group. And then under that, we will then select the container instance, which is manual compute. And then we will then go to settings section, and then under that we will then select containers. And then in the container section, we will review the list of events, and then we will select the logs tab and then review the text that logs from that container instance. So since our application only shows well, I can just say go to resource instead of just going back only to come here, right? So um, remember that our application, our small console application that we did, it was only to just display the IP address. So if we go to the logs now, we should be actually able to see that IP address being logged there. So we go into settings and then containers. And under containers, go to a list of events. Settings, containers. And then in the events, we can see what has been happening. We'll go to logs, and then there we have it. Look at that. We have current IP addresses, which we have now. Actually, we have three now. We have this one, which is, I think, is class B um, IP address, and then we have this one, which is class C, and then we have IP address, which is IP version 6, and IP address there. So this show that we have actually um, successfully deployed that container instance. It has actually ran successfully. So you can also optionally find events and logs from the managed compute container instance, and then it is possible that manual compute and managed compute will not contain any events at this point. So if you don't see any events, um, don't get surprised. It can be possible that you don't see them. And then after the application has finished running, the container will terminate because it has completed its work. And for the manually created container instance, you indicated that a successful exit was complete. So the container ran once, and the automatically created instance didn't offer this option, and it assumes that container should always be running. So you will notice repeated restarts of the container. It's also very important to read the notes because they can come in handy whenever you're stuck, and also to give some light. Okay, and then exercise 4 is where we clean up. So this means that we are done with module 5. Do we have any questions? Well, if we don't have any questions, we can definitely adjourn. All I will do now is to just run a group delete, AZ group delete, and then the name of that resource group is container compute. And then I will say dash dash no wait, and then I will say yes. Um, so definitely this asks if you want to wait for it to delete before you can perform other tasks in your bash, or if you don't want to wait for it. So I just said we don't wait. So thank you guys. We can definitely adjourn.
Thank you, sir.